continue their road to the World Cup tonight versus Australia. Torre beats Waterman for pace. Waste no time crossing the ball inside. Segura doesn't meet it, and Irakunda able to beat Max Crepeau. It's Australia who frustrate and fight with the Canadians all over the pitch. Big chance of the match. Ahmed towards the back post. Caught on it by Oluwaseyi. Canada have the numbers. Buchanan going for the strike, and Montero saw it late. David wins the second one. Schaffelberg flicking it on to Jonathan David, who slams it in.
There's an offside flag up.
Roman rolls it towards Santos Borre, and it goes off the post. Grit, grind, guts from Jesse Marsh's men tonight.
Countdown to 2026 continues as we welcome Christian Jack back to the show. So goalless in their two matches there against Australia and Colombia. And it's prompted a bit of a conversation here when it comes to Jonathan David. KJ, are you having issue with Jesse Marsh's reluctance to play David as a true number 9?
You know, not for me, not in this current system for me. I think this is more of a discussion around systems rather than personnel. I understand why people necessarily maybe want Jonathan David higher up the pitch, but in the current system that they're playing, call it, you know, whatever you want, but it's essentially a 4-4-2 with Jonathan David being the deeper of the two up front, then there's no better player suited to play in that position than Jonathan David. He's got 11 goals for Jesse Marsh in 25 games. It's a great strike rate, scored against some of the biggest teams there is. It's his first window under Jesse Marsh. He didn't score a goal. It's just 2 games, and it was difficult to do so. So it's not like it's a long run. I'd be more concerned a little bit about how Juventus are using him and hope that he gets club form back to being back to where he was. It takes some time, but unless we're talking about a system change here where you're playing 4-3-3 and you need one striker going forward, I wouldn't change anything about Jonathan David's position, because if we want him playing higher, then we could be talking in the next few windows about, oh, he's leading the press and he's working too hard running off the ball and not being what he needs to be when he gets the ball. So, look, I think Jonathan David is the least of Canada's worries, to be honest.
Yeah, Jonathan David isn't the problem, but I'm kind of reversed when it comes to KJ. I'm not worried about his form with Juventus because he's still starting and playing Champions League football, and they're going to be playing a lot of games, so a little bit of preservation is going to be required here, and David will be just fine with his club side. I am a little bit more concerned about the way that he's playing for Canada. It's not necessarily the position he's playing, but it's the positions that he finds himself in on the field.
Well said.
He is dropping way too deep for me. When you're playing weaker opponents, I think David playing that role is fine, because KJ's right. Like, he's the best player on this team, and you want him involved in everything that you have going on. But in games where you're giving up a little bit of the ball or you need a little bit more cutting edge, Jonathan David, in moments like you're just seeing on these highlights, that's when he's at his best, when he's running in behind the line. He's falling so far deep that even the wide players in Tajon Buchanan and Ali Ahmed, their crossing is being inefficient. They didn't complete one cross in the last game, only 26% in the game against Australia, because they just don't think they have a pronounced target man. Teniel Oluwaseyi is a lot of things. He's not as good of a finisher, and he's not as good running in behind the back line for me as Jonathan David. So I think Canada could be a better team if Saliba came into the midfield, pushed Kone forward, and then it's Jonathan David leading the line. I think they might find some more balance there.
And that probably goes back to KJ's point about tactically and how you want to play. But I think about having the best player on the pitch for Canada, and in the biggest games, sometimes he gets iced out. I want the best player, which is Jonathan David, being in the best position to go and succeed, and that's at the number 9. I understand he's the best 10 that we have, but still, in a must-win game, you want him in that one position where someone slips him a pass, to Wheels' point, and he puts the ball in the back of the net. I don't think we want to have that fall on Oluwaseyi, Promise David. You want the most informed, influential striker to be in that position to score.
It's about balance in the team. I'm fine with him playing the 10 in a game where he will dominate on the ball. Canada's best is when they're off the ball. And I think that's why you need David higher up the field, and the touches that he have are in more dangerous areas.
KJ?
No, I disagree. I think, ultimately, where I want him best on the field is where he is right now. As I said, he scored 11 goals. You watch the interview that he did with me where he broke down the goals. He's still finding that space. I'm not sure that we would get that service for him as a number 9. I think we could literally be saying that, yeah, he's getting more touches in the box, but he's not finding the space that he needs to find. In those transitional moments, I want that brain. I want that brain carrying the ball. I don't need that brain who's just at the end of it waiting for the delivery. And then, obviously, some of the things that the guys have said are very warranted, but there are other points. You need combination play out wide a little bit more. You need fullbacks to develop a little bit more with their attackers so they can get those crosses into the box. So, as I said earlier, to reiterate, I'm not worried about the positioning of Jonathan David. And look, if it comes into a tactical switch and Jesse Marsch decides to play Kone and 2 other midfielders, then of course Jonathan David would play as that number 9. But he still would be, I think, required to come a little bit deeper and have runners go beyond him, albeit Alphonso Davies on the left and Tajon Buchanan on the right, for those attacking wingers who can come narrower when you play 4-3-3.
That's been the other conversation when Alphonso Davies returns. Would he go back to being a left back, or would Jesse Marsch play him higher up the field? Christian will be checking in with you as well a little later on too. Thanks for the insights there as we continue our countdown to 2026, and we'll see if any changes will be made in this November window as Canada will play Ecuador and Venezuela. But you know the question I have. Who's the starting goalkeeper?
Of course.
That's what I want to know.
One in
That's
each game.
the
I'll tell you
burning
right now,
question.
one in each game.